performance goals work much better in my worldview than like deficit goals or loss goals, or like I need to lose this or lose that. If we can focus on what we're gaining, and then maybe body fat loss, muscle build can be a byproduct of that performance. Now you're talking about how to stay motivated. So more and faster isn't always better, okay? More reps and faster reps isn't always better. Are you listening to me? All of my conditioning kings and queens out there? More's not always better. The body, as you know, because you train yourself, is an incredible adaptation machine. We are not fragile. Watch when you're projecting your own limitations onto your members. But true failure, my friends, true failure and true recruitment of muscle fiber is how you're going to get lean at any age. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp Podcast. My name is DK, the visionary co-founder of Burn, and I'm happy to be here with you again. And listen up, we have an amazing episode today. Today's episode is how to get lean at any age. And let me tell you something, right off the bat, it has a lot to do with strength training. It has a lot to do with fitness, and it has a lot to do with mindset. And so we're going to dive into that. I'm going to tell you guys some stories. We've been out on the Proud Tour, visiting gyms. I got a couple stories to tell you today. I'm gonna teach you a lot about strength training and what to focus on. Well, I'm gonna zoom you in to the gym, and I want you to, at some point here, close your eyes, and we're just gonna go through what it's like in the gym, and I want you to imagine yourself in the gym, listening up to some of the advice that I have, because strength training is the way to stay lean. If you go to Burn On Demand, so download the Burn Bootcamp app, go to Burn On Demand, which is the middle tab. For those of you that have the app, you download the app. It's the middle tab. It's got the Burn B right in the middle. And you're going to go download a video series called Nutrition Education with DK. All right. Can we pull that up on the screen here momentarily? Nutrition Education on app with me. And what you're going to do inside of this, all right, if you're a non-member of Burn Bootcamp, then you can take a trial or you can sign up for a membership. But this is the one, Chelsea, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is the nutrition.
Okay, we got nutrition here. There's 10 modules, and you're going to go through each one of these. What you're going to find in module 1 and 2 is a principle that I'm going to talk with. That's good, Chelsea, thank you. Principle that we're going to talk about today, rather. And that principle is your goals, okay? But not goals just in the sense of like some, abstracts. I want to choose a goal. So what you're going to do right now is you're going to kind of choose a goal. And if you already have a goal in mind, then this will fall in line with what is already top of mind for you. So there's one of 3 goals. If you're talking about getting lean at any age, all 3 of these matter. You need to choose one. Okay, what does lean mean to you? All right, there's a certain population, okay, around, let's say, 60% of our population who is in an obese category, and we need to lose body fat, all right? Body fat isn't healthy, all right? A certain level of body fat's healthy, but if we're in that obese category, we need to focus on losing body fat, get to a healthy body fat percentage, and that will have a correlation to your calories. So if goal 1 would be to maximize fat loss, okay, we're going to have about a 500 calorie deficit with that, and that'll be about a pound a week, okay? So then I'm being very general right now, so just hang with me. And then the second goal you could have is to maximize your muscle build, which will create a 500 calorie surplus, let's say, so that you can add tissue and add mass. You have excess energy in your body to be able to build new tissue. And then finally, what I think probably most of us are at, eventually, if we're a year in, even if we do start off in that obese category, we're a year in, we focus on maximizing the fat loss, where we're going to be for 99% of our journey, because remember, fitness is a lifestyle, we're going to be at this interesting place called body recomposition. Body recomposition means what are you going at? Like, you're building muscle, but you're also burning fat simultaneously. You're not maximizing fat burn, or you're not maximizing muscle build, but you're doing both very slow, but consistent, and you're compounding. You're staying lean. That's what today is all about. Okay. So the goal, no matter whether you're choosing maximum fat loss, maximum muscle build, or body recomposition. Eventually we want to all kind of be lean, athletic, strong. Here's my goal, right? I want to get you to a normalized body fat percentage. And then I want to ask you the question, do you want to build more muscle, or do you want to maximize that? Meaning, do you want to get super strong, super quick? Okay, well, if we're going to do that, then we're going to sacrifice body fat. We're going to have to add a little bit of body fat to ensure that we have enough caloric energy to be able to build tissue. You guys follow me? All right, so you're kind of starting, generally speaking, we always start in this kind of maximize the fat loss. And then generally speaking, once we do lose the fat, we move into like, hey, now I want to assess how much muscle I'm going to build. And then eventually all of us end up in this body recomposition. All right. That's like the platform that I want to have today's conversation on. Chelsea, does that make sense to you? Did anything I need to elaborate on?
No, made sense to me.
All right. So that makes sense to Chelsea. Then I hope it makes sense to you guys. Perfect. Okay. Now, what is body recomposition? This is athletic ability. It's a strength mixed with conditioning, mixed with mobility. And we are moving in all three planes of motion. Can you go to GPT, Chelsea, and just pull up all three planes of motion and maybe throw a graphic up there for me to speak on with everybody as well? Because it's really important that this is why you come to Burn. It's why you come to Burn, so that you have a well-rounded exercise, science-based fitness program that is geared toward you as an individual. Now, within that, everyone has different goals. Here's some goals everybody could have. If you're looking to set goals right now, here's some performance goals work much better in my worldview than like deficit goals or loss goals, or like I need to lose this or lose that. If we can focus on what we're gaining, and then maybe body fat loss, muscle build can be a byproduct of that performance. Now you're talking, now you're talking about how to stay motivated, right? Because it's much more motivating to go after something that you can gain than have to go after something you have to lose. You know what I mean? So let's look at maybe performance goals like pull-ups. Okay. Pull-ups, if you want to pull up the anatomical planes here, okay, pull-ups are going to be in that frontal plane. Okay. We're going to be going up. We're going to be going up and down. Okay. We're going to up and down. Transverse plane in the middle, you're going to rotate there. And the sagittal plane is like a lunge forward and backward. So you think frontal is left to right. Okay. Sagittal is forward to backward. And transverse is rotational. Okay. And we want to make sure that we are, through the lens of body recomposition, creating athleticism in our body, we need to be strong and mobile through those three planes. Okay. And then, Chelsea, if you can pull up the fundamental 24, if you can find that anywhere, the fundamental 24 at Burn Bootcamp is our representation of the human movement patterns. So there's 12 human movement patterns that are fundamental to just functional lifestyle. 7 of those are primary. 5 of those are secondary. We're going to pull those up here momentarily so you can get some eyeballs on them. But these human movement patterns are what all of the programming is based around. So if you take human movement patterns and you take those 3 movement planes, okay, and then we add, 30% of our activity is hardcore conditioning, hardcore conditioning. And the other 70% of our activity is hardcore strength training, right? Like when we strength train. And when we condition. And it's both are with intention for a specific outcome. Strength training is for musculoskeletal posture. It's for building more muscle tissue. It's for your posture overall, pulling your shoulders back, longevity, health span as you age. And then you have the brain and the heart, the VO2 max, the conditioning side that are really going to condition our brain and our heart. So it's like kind of the muscle system, and then the cardiovascular system, and then the neurological system. And between strength training and conditioning, you need both, because those 3 elements, your muscle, your brain, and your heart, together are the body's kind of vital system. So 12 human movement patterns and getting athletic in those 12 human movement patterns. You can see them on your screen: push, pull, squat, hinge, lunge, gait, agility are the main 7. And then you have brace, rotate, jump, carry, and balance as the secondary 5 human movement patterns. We scroll to the right here. Now we have each one of those fundamental 24 exercises I'm talking about. And then we want to start putting ourselves in a position to set goals within these exercises. And now you talk about PRs, personal records. Hopefully that gives everybody just a quick snapshot of the foundation in order for us to get lean at any age. That's the kind of some foundational principles. Okay, so now let's move forward, because enough said there. Let's move forward and talk about my experience in Las Vegas, because I want to bring this to light for you. Okay, so I was in Las Vegas. Shout out to Jenna Stevens, who we recorded a podcast together. Do you know episode that Jenna's podcast was, Chelsea, off the top?
She will be episode 67.
Okay, episode 67, if you want to hear in depth with Jenna Stevens, franchise partner of Las Vegas, Nevada. But we are there on the Proud Tour, and we're at the 9:30 camp. I have the mic on, and this was at the 8:30 camp, and I get partnered up with a member named Amber. Now, Amber is funny because, she clearly works her absolute butt off. There was a High Rocks was coming to Vegas that weekend, and they were coming in on a Saturday. This was a Wednesday. And the first thing she said to me, she's like, "Hey, I got High Rocks this weekend, so take it easy on me." I'm like, do you know whose world you're in right now? We are not taking it easy. There is no such thing as taking it easy. She's like, "I figured you'd say that." But she was game for growth, which is the prerequisite to maximizing your time in the gym. Have a growth mindset. Amber walks in with a growth mindset. It's not fixed. It's not like, "Oh, I don't think I can," or maybe, this is the weight, or here's my limiting factors. No, it's give me more. Say yes. Whatever you want me to do, I'm game. And so I want to tell you about our interaction, because I think it just can highlight, if we're talking about, how to really get lean, okay, adding muscle should be your number one focus. If we're talking about getting lean, why? Because adding muscle is is the prerequisite to your body becoming this calorie burning metabolic machine. Why? You've all heard this before. Why? Because when you add muscle mass, your resting metabolic rate, your RMR, or the calories that you burn while you're at rest, it goes up. So the more muscle you put on, the more calories that you're going to burn at rest, the more calories you burn, the leaner, the chances of you staying leaner go way up. You follow me there? So resting metabolic rate, that's a really important thing. How do we get our resting metabolic rate up? We add muscle mass is the number one way. Okay, so how do we add muscle mass? Well, it's mechanical tension. People think nutrition is part of adding muscle mass. Definitely, do not get me wrong, but the vast majority of the 80% of the formula for gaining muscle is mechanical tension. Hypertrophy means maximizing your muscle growth. If atrophy is slowly eating away and atrophying, eating away, killing muscle, deteriorating muscle, then hypertrophy is the hypergrowth of muscle. And so that's just a fancy way to say gaining muscle in the most efficient way possible. So hypertrophy is where you need to be. And here's where we get it wrong, my friends. And this is where I'm going to bring Amber back into the story, because Amber has goals. She told me her goals, and her goals were all about getting stronger, staying leaner, having more energy, being able to, not have to focus so hardcore on diet all the time. What happens as you gain more muscle is you have more freedom calorically. Be careful though. It's a slippery slope, my friends. But Amber's physical strength was lagging behind her, but her physical strength was ahead of her mental strength. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. Meaning that her perception of how strong she was didn't actually match up to how strong she was. She's a very confident person. very confident. You would meet her and you're like, oh, she's super confident, extroverted, first one to high five everybody in the gym, first one to cheer people on. Yeah, for sure. Still, you need a trainer. Why do you need a trainer? Because that trainer is going to demand more out of you than you're willing to demand out of yourself. That's what it's all about. When I look at you and I say, hey, Amber, how much weight can you do? And she's like 40s. I'm like, how many reps? She's like 10. I'm looking at her in the back of my mind, and the first thing that goes through my head is, her perception of how strong she is does not match actually how strong she is. So here's what happened. In the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, you're way stronger than that, Amber. I can just see in the way, because I have a trained eye, I can see in the way that you pick up those 40s on a deadlift and you stand up and set those down with ease. I know what your capabilities are. So I said, trainers, listen up. Here's 2 questions that you can ask any one of your members at any of one of your clients, if you're not at Burn, at any time. 2 questions. Do you trust me? They already trust you. It's a loaded question. They're already there. They're going to say yes. And if they happen to say no, because they're a person that just wants to stir the pot, right? If they say no, then your follow-up question is, I know you don't trust me now. Are you willing to trust yourself? Try to get around that. All right? Because now I have permission as a trainer to say, hey, those 40s that you're picking up, those are below your strength threshold. And let's not leave confidence on the table today. Because that's what we're after, isn't it? As a trainer, isn't that what you're after? To change someone's life, to impact them and be so influential to them that it changes their life and their worldview? Yeah, of course it is. So you can't let members just run the show. You're running the show. You've got the mic on. No, with great power comes great responsibility. You know that. And it can, having the mic on and being in my world now could run into ego really quick. But if you're a great trainer and you set your ego aside and you deploy humility and you have authority and command, boom, now you're talking about a true transformational human being for others that can look at somebody and say, I believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And I'm going to ask you, do you trust me? Because if you trust me and you're willing to pick up that way I already know you can do, then now we're not leaving any confidence on the table. Now you're picking that confidence up. You're putting that in your back pocket and you're owning the confidence. So not only did I have that conversation with Amber as she's clearly dominating 40s, by the way, love you to death, Amber, but she was proud of herself for that. I'm the number one person in your corner that's going to believe in you and encourage you. But guess what? I will not be proud of something that you should not take pride in. You shouldn't take pride in the routine, in the easy, you should take pride in the things that are difficult, that are beyond your scope, beyond your willingness, beyond your comfort zone. And so she set him down and looked for me to like, all smiling, high five and rah rah. I'm like, okay, that was cute. You want to pick up those 60s right there, Amber? With a big smile on my face. And she's like, I don't know. See that? Ooh, that little, I don't know. That's gold for trainers. So members, if you guys look at your trainer and you give them a little, I don't know, that little doubt, that's literally our trigger. We are looking for that. We want to uncover that because we know that once we uncover that little doubt, just enough for you to question yourself. Boom, I already know you can lift the 60s. I already know you are going to have doubt. I'm setting you up because I'm a great mentor. I'm setting you up to answer your own question. Do you think you can do those? I already know you can. Give it your best shot. Amber picks up 60s. She does them with little problem, not no problem. She does them with little problem. I can see by number 9 and 10, we're on 10 rep max on our hinge motion, on our deadlift for our PR. So her PR is a 10 rep max. She a little trouble. She was a little sticky on rep 9 and 10, but easy does it. Like, come on, that was, you got more to give than that. And so even after she went from 40s to 60s, I still looked at her like, okay, I see you. I got you. Do you trust me? 70s. Oh, I don't know. What? I know. Are you willing to try? And she picked them up. She did not think she could do them. And by rep 8, I was there with her for rep 8, 9, and 10 with the 70s, giving her that extra energy that she needed. That's what your trainers are for, to demand more out of you than you're willing to demand out of yourself. And so we literally go almost 100%. Let's think about this. Think about this. For somebody who is extremely confident already, so somebody's a leader in the gym, somebody who's executing on fitness on all levels, we have an interaction and she goes from lifting 40s for her 10 rep max, and she's proud of that, to 70s. That's almost a 100% increase. You almost doubled your weight. I'm confident that she could pick up 80s on her first set next time she does that and do 10 reps to double her PR. Now here's the question. What was she leaving on the table by not holding herself more accountable than anybody else was willing to hold her? Now that's the game. Okay, now that's the game. How can you end up over time holding yourself more accountable than anybody else is willing to hold you? You still need a trainer because they're still going to push you beyond your comfort zone, but that's the game. Because then you can do all the little hard things that you have doubt in yourself about, that are outside of the gym, that are maybe little or seemingly used to be impossible. And then you've conditioned yourself that when you shake that head no, or when you overcome, or when you introduce that doubt, you're now conditioning your psychology. We call neuro pathway programming, right? You've heard about neuro pathway and neuroplasticity on the podcast before, creating new circuits in the brain, creating new habits, creating new rituals, creating new pathways. Now we've created a new pathway of confidence that when doubt is introduced, doubt equals step up, not lay down. Does that make sense to you? When doubt is, for like 99.9% of us, when doubt is introduced, we cower. We roll our shoulders, eyes go down, and we feel bad about our inability to be able to, because we don't think we can. But if we condition ourselves enough times by picking up that weight we didn't think we could pick up, now when you go out into the real world and you don't think you can hit that business goal, or you don't think you can push your child through that next level of struggle in their education, or you don't think you can, step up and be a support system for your hubby, like whatever it may be, you're going to have a conditioned mindset, a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. So fundamentally, my friends, think differently, you live differently. And we train differently, not to get stronger. We train differently so that we can think differently, okay? And if you want an example of that, go ahead and pull up that video you're just on. We have, not only Amber at Las Vegas, who goes from 40s to 60s to 80s. But we got Flint, who has been somebody at Lake Norman, who is a dear friend of mine, somebody I've been training, in camp, working out with her, but also working with her on nutrition one-on-one. And you talk about overcoming doubt. Look at this. 6 months ago, Flint wasn't jumping. She's not leaving the ground. This is plyometrics. This is 2 feet leaving the ground at the same time. When we first started, this was not even on her radar. Actually, today, this wasn't even on her radar. I said, Flint, we're going plyometrics today. And she said, plyo-whatics? What does that mean? I'm like, follow me. And that high five that you see right there, that high five at the end, Amber and I shared that same moment. That same moment when our trainers come up to you as a member after you just did something that you didn't think you could do. You overcame your own self-doubt. We knew you could do it the whole time. You didn't know you could do it. Now you did it. I high-five you. I grab onto that high five just for a moment. And I pull you in close. And I say, I hope you're proud of yourself. I'm not trying to condition you to get your pride from me. It's not about your trainer or me being proud of you. It's not, hey, I'm proud of you. Okay, listen to this, trainers. It's not, hey, I'm proud of you. What you're doing now is you're conditioning somebody to need you. You're conditioning them to need some of that reinforcement. And no, switch this up. Do this with your kids too. I never tell my kids that I'm proud of them. I tell them, you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of the human being that you are becoming. And when you are proud of yourself, dad looks at you and dad sees you being proud of yourself. That makes dad proud. You guys follow me on that one? Okay. That's that. Enough said there. 3 planes of motion. strength training in all three planes of motion. Getting lean at any age is not about, we used to think that as you got older, it was impossible to gain muscle. We now know that's not true. We now know that as you're older, hypertrophy becomes more difficult. We now know that atrophy, muscle loss, if you don't use it, you lose it. That comes faster as we age. Begins happening around 30, 32 years old. But it gets faster as we age. So if we don't produce the antithesis, if we're not executing against that hypertrophy or atrophy with hypertrophy, the muscle loss with the maximized muscle build, or the mechanical tension, which means, like to Amber and to Flint's point, like true failure, not 40s when you can do 70s, but true failure, my friends, true failure and true recruitment of muscle fiber is how you're going to get lean at any age, whether you're 70 or whether you're 25, it doesn't matter. You can gain muscle. Okay. So GPT for me, what is the percentage that your muscle atrophies as you age if you don't use? Let's just go to GPT for this one. See what our good assistant trainer friend over here has to say. What do you got to say, chat? Let's see. Zoom that in for me a little bit. So age-related muscle loss technically is called, I think, sarcopenia. Yeah. Okay, so that's the medical term, sarcopenia. 30 to 40 is, yeah. So you're going to start to lose 3 to 5% per decade. You're not going to notice it, but unless you have the antidote against it, the hypertrophy, you're naturally going to lose muscle. Ages 40 to 50, you're going to increase that muscle loss a little bit. By the way, if you are just in muscular endurance, people, you're not in hypertrophy, meaning you're in muscular endurance, your repetitions are way high. Just because you're lifting a weight does not make it strength training. Do you guys follow me on that? Just because you're lifting a weight doesn't make it strength training. I get this question often. Devin, I thought it was body weight, or I thought it was Metcon today, or athletic conditioning. Why do we have weights? Well, like a weighted vest is a great example of this. I wear a weighted vest for athletic conditioning day because I can move the additional weight, fast with velocity through space and time. Hypertrophy, you should be failing out, which means that gravity should be taking over, which means that the repetitions are much slower and you're maximizing how much you can lift versus weights on a conditioning day. Let's say, let's go, weighted jacks. You know that one where we have we have weight in our hands and we're doing a shoulder press and a jack at the same time, but we use like 20. I use 20s or 25s for that. I use 20s or 25s because I can move that through space and time quickly. But that doesn't make it hypertrophy. I want you to know the difference. That just because you have a weight in your hand doesn't mean it's hypertrophy is muscular failure at 15 reps or less. Involuntary muscular failure is a better way to put it. Okay. And if you don't do involuntary muscular failure, hypertrophy, this is what happens. Age 40 to 50, you're starting to increase the amount of muscle loss per decade. And then you go to 50 or 60, you really start to now lose strength. You're going to start declining on your strength quickly. Okay. And this it gets worse as you age. And you see older generation, who have never strength trained before, versus those who have. You can take somebody who's 75 years old who have strength trained their whole life and look at them next to somebody who's never strength trained their whole life. Guys, diet aside, it is incredibly obvious when you're 75 what you spent the last 3 decades doing. And like my late grandmother, Grandma Klein, God bless her soul, what an angel. The nicest, sweetest lady. Gosh, she'd do anything for you. She was dead broke on welfare her whole life, but she would still find a way to buy all the grandchildren like Christmas presents. And her one Super Bowl was like, she'd go like the dollar store and spend all of her money on like buying as many presents as she could and fill up her little tiny little 600 square foot house. Like half the living room was just full of presents stacked, 2 or 3 high. Greatest grandma you could ever ask for. Never would have, never had a complaining soul in her body. But she passed away in her late 60s. She was on oxygen by the oxygen tank by the time she was late 50s. Grandma Klein would chain smoke cigarettes and sit at her chair all day long. And she passed away when she was late 60s. She started getting terrible posture in her late 40s. Never would work out, sat on the couch all day long, chain smoked cigarettes on an oxygen tank, never did a push-up in her life, never. And she was immobile by 58, in a walker by 60, and then pretty much glued to the couch for all of her, for the couple years that she had in her 60s. And so I want you to realize that if you don't strength train, and if you choose to have these habits, like the short-term gratification habits, set smoking. She never drank a drop of alcohol in her life, but set smoking aside. She ate bad food. She smoked, set that stuff aside. She just didn't work out. She never worked out. She would have added 20, 30 years to her life if she would have just trained, just showed up for 30 minutes or 45 minutes a day somewhere. And she didn't do that. And I don't want that for you. And I don't want that for your family. And I want your children to watch you grow up with health into your 70s, into your 80s, and into your 90s. And I want to give you the gift of longevity and health longevity. So lift weights. That's how you're going to get lean at any age. Lift weights, hypertrophy, not necessarily muscular endurance. Okay. Now, what do I mean when I say hypertrophy? Let me just clarify one thing for you guys, okay? Because as a trainer, I'd be remiss if I didn't say every burn boot camp has a focal point. The focal points are PRs. So do you know when you go into the gym, trainer's like, hey, our training cycle this month for 4 weeks, we're focused on deadlift. We're going to see how much more weight that you can move through 10 reps on a deadlift. I want you to focus on those things, okay? So much so that what we've also done during your workouts is we've put an exercise or two, and I'll give you an example in a moment, but we've put at least one exercise that creates what we call an RIR station or a reps in reserve station. What that means, the other day, this was lateral plyo steam engines during a metabolic conditioning day. I think we were trying to do box jumps for PR or something. Forgive me if that's wrong. We were trying to do box jumps for PR, I believe. And strategically, right before the box jumps, we put a lateral plyometric steam engine, a little bit less invasive move so that you can still move. But this isn't something where I'm looking at you to say, how hard can you go? How fast can you go? Wear it out. Get to the end. Maximize it. Burn it. I don't want max out, burn out, max out, burn out, max out, burn out on everything. Maybe the 24, 25-year-old Devin was a little bit more focused on that. And maybe that's a little bit how burn started. But we've gotten much more sophisticated on the way that we are administering programming. And so we want you to be able to understand what that training cycle PR movement is. We call it the fundamental 24, a deadlift. And I want you to put everything that you have into that deadlift, because that is a compound exercise where you're using multiple chains, multiple joints to perform the movement, multiple compound muscles that are all working together, joints that are all working together. So compound movement. We're using our ankles, our knees, our hips, our shoulders on a deadlift. Okay? And focusing on that and maxing out on that. That's where I want max out. That's where I want you to grit your teeth, grab the weight, lift as heavy as you can. This is the progression promise, is that when you do this, when you focus on your fundamental 24 and you're constantly doing more weight for the same reps, you're doing more weight for the same reps, you're going to build muscle. It's science, okay? This is not an art. This is a science. You do more weight for the same reps. You maximize out. You let gravity involuntarily tell you when you're done, not your choice or when you feel like it. Now you're talking hypertrophy. Now you're talking lean at any age. And now you're talking maximizing. But we can't have the pendulum doesn't only stay on one side, does it? The pendulum swings to the other side. It goes back and it goes forth. So in our workouts, you're going to have stations where it's made to be what we call an RIR, reps in reserve, or active recovery is another way to say that, active recovery. We have this in a format called you go, I go, you go, I go. We just did this in Vegas, actually. This was the format that we did when I was working out with Amber. I was Amber's partner. And so, you know, the reps in reserve for us that day was when my partner was doing that deadlift, I was doing some active recovery. I was oscillating camp that day between calf raises and just boxer stance, like shaking out. Because I don't want you doing jump squats to the max when I'm trying to get you better at deadlift today. That's the intentionality that goes into fitness at any age. Okay? So more and faster isn't always better. Okay, more reps and faster reps isn't always better. Are you listening to me? All of my conditioning kings and queens out there? More's not always better. Okay, intentionality, doing things on purpose. What's my intention of this workout today? Trainers, that's something that, like the 99% of us do really, really well at Burn, is we set the intentionality of our camp before it gets started. Hey, today, training cycle, PR, deadlifts. This is what we're focused in on. If I could give you trainers any other advice, okay, let's talk about what success looks like. Let's give them some anticipation of what you're going to be doing in that station with them for that day. And all right, everybody, you're going to get to this station. You're going to have an idea of what weight you want to pick up. What I want you to do is automatically go 10 pounds heavier because I know that you can. And then when I come around, I'm going to assess you and I want to make sure you're maximizing your weight for 10 reps today, meaning you can't do it anymore. Everybody on board, say yes. Okay, that's the way that I like to break it down. Let everybody know what's coming. Give them some time to anticipate and think about it, okay? So, you know, this isn't about our ego when we're in the gym, trainers or members, okay? This isn't about how intense I can make every single second of every single camp every single day. It's not about that. You're going to have pops of intensity, okay? Because I know my goal is to get you to, and our trainer's goal is to get you to a 10 out of 10 RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, a 10 out of 10, a few times, not all the time, a few times during the workout. You want to get to the point where that talk test, that ability to look to your friend to the left and the right and like have an actual conversation, can't do it. That's where we want to get you to, at least 2 or 3 times for everybody. Now, if you're somebody who's like advanced and you've been doing this for 10 or 15 years and let's say you're in shape, like I'm going to challenge you a little bit more because you've got more capacity, you've got more capability, you've got more experience, you've created more layers of muscle fiber, and you're going to recover faster and all those things. Your heart rate's going to come down quicker. So I can challenge you more. Somebody that's walking into the gym for the first day, relatively speaking, your full burpee jump knee tucks on a conditioning day to their ledge chops, just stepping up and down off our floating floor. It's equivalent. Okay. So we're not looking, to drive you into the ground in every exercise or, some, silly outcome that makes us look good as trainers. Show this RPE scale. This is what we're looking at. I want to see whether it's a strength day or it's a conditioning day. I want to see you at a maximal RPE, absolute max effort, 2 or 3 times. Trainers, in Burn Nation, you guys will know this now, members, because myself and our fitness team and our education team, we teach all of our trainers to get down on one knee when you're down in that exercise and stay with you. We call it the eye bubble, the individual. That's you. You get that intensity. You're in our world now, is what we say behind the scenes. Yeah, you're in our little bubble. And you see that number 10, when your trainer's in your bubble, you're definitely getting to a 10. And our trainers are taught to be in your bubble a couple times a camp. So you know that when trainer's there and they're on you, that's your time. All right? Or if you hear your trainer calling your name across the room, which they're so amazing at doing, they're going to catch you. You're slowing down on those battle ropes. Hey, Chelsea, that ain't it. You got 10 more, Chelsea. We got 12 seconds to get there. And I want to see you at a 10 out of 10 effort, Chelsea. That's the type of pops that you're going to get in camp. So here's that RPE scale. Remember it, know it. Are you at a 7 or an 8? Do you have more in the tank? I ask that question over the mic in my camps all the time. Do you have more? How much gas do you have in? Everybody at the finisher for at least a handful of seconds should be at a 10 out of 10 momentarily together. And that suffering of being at that max, as you see on the chart, very difficult, or actually hard starts at 5. Very hard is 6. Very difficult is 7, 8. Extremely hard is 9. Maximum is what I'm after. Maximum. Right, Amber? 70s are maximum. That's a RPE of 10. I see the grit on your face. You're forced to crunch your nose up. You're forced to grit your teeth. You're forced to squeeze your core. I can see your knuckles. They're white. I can see the forearms. They're jacked. I can see the tension in the neck. You know what I mean? That's a 10. Sleeping's a 0. So you get it, everybody. All right. So advice to members. You're stronger than you think you are. You want to build muscle at any age? Realize as a default mechanism that if you always hold yourself accountable more than anybody else can hold you accountable, you're going to think about deadlifting those 40s, and your trigger is like, when I think about a weight, I automatically go up 10 pounds. Because you know that if you can do 40s and you're confident in that, you know that you can do 50s because it's only 10 more pounds in each hand, and you're so confident that you can do the 40s. And then, trainers, advice to you, then you're going to come around, you're going to look at the stickiness through those. Are we at through those reps? Are we at a 7 or an 8? Are we at a 9? And can we go to a 10? And is the 50 leaving confidence on the table? If yes, grab 60. If you said grab 60 and 60 is too heavy, immediately stop and go back to the 50s. That's one thing that we miss, trainers, is you're trying to push the threshold. But if you get a member that has bad form, it means they can't move the weight through form first, load second. If your form ain't good, reduce the load right away. I do this all the time. I actually push members when we are doing our PRs. I'll push them. I'll just say, show me 1 or 2 reps with this weight. And I can see it right away, whether you're able to keep form for 10 reps. If on your first rep of a deadlift, your lower back and hips are the first thing that go into the sky, and your chest doesn't stay facing me, then I know that weight's a little bit too heavy. I might have you do one more with an adjusted mindset. Hey, keep your hips down. Okay, chest up. Drive the heels into the ground. Push the floor away. Don't lift the weight off the floor. And then watch you do it again. If your lower back still comes up, boom, I put that weight right back down. Does that make sense? All right. So what we don't want to do is give advice to members, have them go heavier, and then not be willing to have them go back down. Okay. That's my advice to you guys. And finally, trainers, my advice to you is, the final piece of advice to you is, the body, as you know, because you train yourself, is an incredible adaptation machine. We are not fragile. We are not fragile. We are very capable as human beings. And as long as we are pregnancy-free and injury-free, meaning the body's in a good state, okay? Watch out for the following, trainers. Watch when you're projecting your own limitations onto your members. I see this more times than I don't. Is we project onto a member what we think that member would want us to say to gain and maintain that trusting relationship. Okay, but if you think about the dynamics of the best coach you ever had, the best mentor, the best professor, the best teacher, somebody that you had keyword respect for, which is the prerequisite to trust, what do you share in common with that person? They always expected more out of you than you expected out of yourself. They never projected their own limitations onto you. They always looked at you objectively and said, what is this person, this individual? What is Amber capable of? What is Flint capable of? And let's look at the world through their lens, not mine. Not mine. Our job, and I have this struggle. I have this struggle in the organization because we're all so close. And sometimes if we get too close, I'm not saying I don't want us to be close, but if we cross that member trainer threshold and trainers start to get too friendly, then we put niceness rather than accountability and honesty as the first step in our relationship. Whereas if we're friends, we might flip that and we might hold off our accountability and our honesty to save that friendship. You know how like you with some of your family members, like they do little quirky things and like it kind of annoys you, but it doesn't annoy you enough to actually like address it. And like, it's because it's not that big of a deal. And it might be just a wedge in the relationship if you address it. So you kind of don't, like with your sister or your brother. That happens all the time. That happens with trainer and member relationship too. So trainers, you can be friendly, but we are not when we're on the floor, and we can be friends outside of the floor. But when we're on the floor, we are friendly, but we're not friends. Okay. It's my job to hold you accountable until you hold yourself accountable more than I could. That's my goal, is to create self-sufficiency. And so you don't need me anymore. You're an intrinsically motivated person. And through that process, what I end up doing is I show you all of what you can be and be that spark of encouragement and belief that you needed, a moment in time that you needed to create momentum. And then you start creating momentum by yourself. And then you look back and you say, damn, DK, he demanded more out of me than anybody else in my life. And it wasn't because he was nice. And it wasn't because, he told me what I wanted to hear. It's because he held me accountable. It's because he said, do you trust me? Listen, I know you just told me you don't want to do that weight today, but these are the days when you do the things you don't want to do. These are the days in which you grow. And I convince you to overcome your selfish motivation in the moment, and you hate it in the moment. But then 3 days later, you're like, I'm so glad he did that. I mean, half the time that Ashley Beasley, my trainer, half the time that she is on me, right next to me, I'm like, go away. Half the time I don't want her there. I'll never tell her that, because now I know that if I lean into that, and I do what Ashley Beasley tells me to do, because I know I trust her implicitly. And she makes me a better human being by training me and getting me outside of my comfort zone. Okay, look at this stuff. Look at her. Check this out. You think I want to do this right now? Guys, you think I want to do bow, Sioux ball, airborne mountain climbers? I kind of do, but not that fast. Not on the bow, Sioux ball, not off the deficit in the ledge, not with her right there on me. But I trust her so much that if she says jump, I'm going to jump, right? If she says jump, I'm going to jump. And Ashley is one of the most influential people in my life because she's my trainer. So listen to your trainers. Trainers, do yourselves a favor. Be the commanding leader that people need. Friendly, not friends. Kind, not nice. Force people to overcome their limiting beliefs, and you're going to create such a brand for yourself that you will be undeniable. You will be so good. You will be so good that you will force people to recognize how impactful you are as a trainer. We don't get that through self-promotion. We get that through membership connection. Results are our resume, and we will do everything that we possibly can do to get you to where you want to be. All right? So that's my opinion. Take it, leave it. I don't care. I do care. But what I do know is that action is what's stopping you from getting to where you want to be. If your results are going slow, action. Knowledge is not power. I know you know to lift heavy. Now let's go do it. Make sense? Say yes? Okay. I think that is, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. We did a good little coverage here, talking about getting lean at any age. Let's see, a couple rapid fire tips for you. How to get lean at any age. All right. What's your boundaries on your food groups? That's another quick conversation. So let's do rapid fire, quick conversation on the other ways. And 99% of it is strength train, build muscle, hypertrophy, lift a heavier weight, overcome yourself, become confident, build muscle over time, increase your resting metabolic rate by doing so, burn more calories at rest. That's how you're going to stay lean over time as you age. Strength training is 99.9999999% of it. All right. And then you have nutrition next. Obviously, it's nutrition next. And obviously, box foods, bag foods, anything that comes in a package is going to kill you, my friends. So let's keep this really easy. Let's start simply at this. Let's start simply at the following. We're going to start by only, there's some boundaries, only consuming foods that are not in packages, not in bags, not in boxes, not containers. That's your whole food. Your supplementation, I'm okay with some bags and some boxes and some things, okay? Because it's supplementation. Supplementation, my friends, is exactly what it means. Supplementing your whole food diet. It's not a replacement. Supplementation is the cherry on top. It's what's going to get you all the way there. But the boundary is consuming. The first boundary is only consuming foods within the following categories. Meat. Let's just call it fish too. So meat, fish, eggs as your protein. Whole grains. Fruits, nuts, vegetables. Okay, let's just kind of stop there. You can maybe add some organic dairy in there. But the better way to think about it is if it doesn't come in a package or it doesn't come in a box or it doesn't come in a wrapper and it's a whole food that was made from the earth that roams on the ground, comes from the ground, flies in the sky, swims in the sea. It was here before human beings were here. I think that's probably a good way to think about it too. Things you would just find if you were a hunter-gatherer and you were to come across food in the wild. That's one boundary, okay? And if you want to stay lean in the long run, I think caloric intake is even more down the list than actually just consuming whole foods. Get in the habit of consuming whole foods. Flint right now is losing weight like crazy, you guys. But it's never about losing weight with us. It's about creating repeatable days. She's going to get to the point where she's created such a conditioned neural pathway through the belief system of repeatable days, because all she's doing is eating within the boundaries in which we just talked about. I mean, go to that sweater one. Eating within the boundaries we just talked about, and then logging her food. That's her two things. All right, here's Flint. That's what Flint was when we first started, and that's where she's at now. And obviously you can see the gigantic difference, okay? And we're not doing anything dramatic. We're actually only doing two things. Repeatable days, okay, within a caloric range. That's it. And the caloric range is 1,500 to 2,000 calories. A pretty wide range, all right? You want to see your results? Check the results out. Okay, we're going down, baby. This is the byproduct of the things we're talking about with Flint. Flint and I don't talk about weight loss. We talk about boundaries and nutrition, and we talk about consistency in the gym. Okay? We're almost at her lowest weight she's been in her adult life right now, and we never talk about it. Okay? We're talking about what we can gain, the confidence, the discipline that we can gain from having repeatable days. Repeatable days. Write that down. Because if you can't repeat the day, then what's the point? Because too many of us, if you're somebody that goes up and down and you clicked on this podcast because it's how to stay lean at any age, how to stay lean all the time. Well, the number one way to not stay lean is to just is to go on diets and have super hardcore restrictions and then let loose on those restrictions and take the governor off and then back to restrictions and then governor off and then back to restrictions. You're going to yo-yo diet up and down. The boundary for Flint is repeatable days. What can you repeat over and over and over and over? That's enjoyable. We've taken all of our favorite foods and we figured out alternatives. We figured out tasteful, enjoyable alternatives, things that she likes to make. All right. And maybe soon what I'll do is aggregate all of Flint's nutrition and I'll bring that here for you on the podcast and her macros, and because she is logging it. And that's the one thing that is repeatable for Flint is eat within this boundary of foods. Like you can have whatever combinations you want and let's get creative within this boundary of foods, but let's do it in a caloric allotment. And when you have that, and here's the trick, and here's why this works, is because when you have your boundaries around whole foods only, essentially, they're calorically, they're nutritionally dense, meaning there's lots of, there's macronutrients and micronutrients. It's packed with macros and micros, which are vitamins and minerals, but it's calorically light. So you can eat a lot of it, feel satiated, and give your body everything that it needs to regulate hormones. Now, if you're somebody who's super dysregulated, be patient, because it took Flint almost 90 days of eating this way before her stomach started like getting on a routine. I won't go into the first 90 days of the irregulars that we were having, right? That's her own business. But it was like a regular digestion, because we were switching things up and getting repeatable. Your body wants to anticipate the future, wants to know what's coming. And when it does know what's coming and it knows what it's getting, it's going to learn that. It's going to learn how to process that. And then it's going to crave that. So you can stop watering this big oak tree of sugar craving. And if you stop watering the big craving of sugar that was like an oak tree, and you stop giving it sunlight and you stop nourishing that thought process or that behavior pattern, it's going to shrink and shrivel up. And then you just have to water something else. You gotta replace the pathway. And so now what are you going to do? Right? So the vulnerable moment is when you stop doing one habit, you start shrinking it. You have to be doing another habit simultaneously that's fulfilling, because you can't kill energy. Energy can't be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. So I need to transfer that habitual energy over to something simultaneously, you follow me, that is going to replace, that binge eating or whatnot. So we'll work on it. We'll talk about it. But if you want the 1-2 punch and keeping it simple in a long form way, kind of going deep in those two things, it is strength training and repeatable, doable, not perfect, 80% of the time, 85% of the time, nutrition. And, and the last thing is think differently about it. Let's not overwhelm ourselves with all the stuff we have to do, guys. Let's get in, let's show up. Let's show up for 45 minutes a day. Let's strength train with 60 to 70% of what we do. And let's have hardcore pops of conditioning with the other 34 or 30 or 40%. All right. Let's work hard when we're doing it. Let's not sell ourselves short. Let's when we're there and we showed up, now show up again. That's, I'm proud that you're there, but since you're there, you might as well just show up right now, right? Why not? You're already there. You're spending the same amount of time. You might not feel like it every day, and that's okay too. And you're not going to feel your best every day, but you can try your hardest every day. You can always try. So do that. Try your hardest. Have repeatable nutrition days. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. Think differently. Think in quarters, not days. Think in 90-day spans, not 90-minute spans. Doing good for 90 minutes or a week doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. What really matters is how can you if you string together 4 quarters in a row, I'm proud. You should be proud of yourself. That's hard. That's diligence. That's really stepping up and executing. 4 days in a row is a flash in the pan. Anybody can be good for 4 days. That's not going to help you in the long run. Okay. So we're talking about training a little differently, eating a little differently, thinking a little differently. And, in a nutshell, my friends, keeping it simple and staying within the bounds of kind of those 3 confines is the most repeatable way to be where you want to be. And with that being said, that's that. Thanks for listening. Hope you're enjoying your commute. Hope you're enjoying your drive into the office. I hope you're enjoying your workout. Hopefully some of you, are maybe getting an extra run in a week or every other week, you listen to the pod, or, hopefully on your commute. But we're happy you're listening wherever you are. And we hope that you can support the pod by subscribing on YouTube. If you love us, if you love Burn, and you want to share the pod, that'd be awesome. Because there's a lot of people that don't know about the pod. I just asked Chelsea how many members out of 150,000 are listening to the pod. It's about 11,000 out of 150,000. So share this with a Burn sister, a Burn bro, a trainer, a franchise partner. Do me a favor. If you learned something today, share this episode with just one person, and also simultaneously let that person know that you care about them. Hey, DK said something on the podcast. It reminded me of you today. And, I just wanted to let you know, A, that I was thinking about you and that you're on my mind, but B, wanted to share this piece of information with you. And then hopefully it resonated with you. Not only do you show your care and compassion for somebody else in your life that you love, but you also are practicing your leadership bones at the same time and exercising the leadership muscle. So episode 21, why no one is doing this, all right, is right here. I want you to watch this one if you are not done with that commute yet, or you want more of us here today and you're not quite done with your podcast fix. Top fitness tips to help slow aging right here, everybody. With that being said, I'll take us out how we do. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2. Keep moving, my friends.